Nakano Takeko and her fellow warrior women are marching to their lord's castle for what will be the last fight of the samurai era. But, as they approach their destination, they are met with a formidable challenge. The emperor's forces are blocking their path, armed with modern rifles that vastly overpower the women's naginata weapons. Undaunted, Takeko and her sisters-in-arms hatch a daring plan. They will wait until the enemy soldiers fire their first shot, and then they will strike with everything they have, attack the middle and the flanks, in a desperate bid to break through the enemy's lines. Right after the first volley is fired, Nakano ordered them to attack and the samurai women sprang into action. This is the incredible story of Nakano Takeko, one of Japan's fiercest samurai women.
これがマグナスとサムライヒストリー。
Edo, the bustling capital of Japan, was the birthplace of Nakano Takeko. She was born into a powerful samurai family, and was fortunate to have received an excellent education, along with good looks. Growing up, she became aware of the privileges enjoyed by the Eizu samurai, and started her education, studying calligraphy and poetry. She was lucky to receive a formal education, under the tutelage of a renowned Eizu martial arts instructor, which was a luxury that many girls from lower-ranking samurai families did not have. During her young age, Takeko was fascinated by the stories of Japanese female warriors, particularly the legend of Tomo Guzan. She frequently recited the classic Japanese anthology of poetry, the Ogura Hyakunin issue. However, to become a true samurai, she knew that she must master one more discipline, the art of combat. She began her training with her master, and soon demonstrated a natural talent for fighting. Despite her privileged upbringing, Takeko was not spared from the political intrigues and growing dissatisfaction among the samurai. The samurai accused the emperor of the increasingly unstable economy, and tensions were running high. It was at this time that a fleet of American warships suddenly appeared on Edo's coastline. Commodore Matthew Perry commanded the ships, and their mission was to coerce Japan to open its markets to Western goods. After the negotiations reached a deadlock, Perry fired shots as a final warning to the shogun, which demonstrated his readiness to use force. This incident would initiate a series of events that would ultimately bring the samurai era to an end. As a result of America's forced entry into Japan, the British, French, and Russian fleets began to arrive, establishing trading posts and bringing Western goods and influence. Their arrival would have a significant impact on Japan, changing it permanently. As Western influence increased, many samurai accused the emperor of appeasing the West, which they believed was dishonorable to Japan. Meanwhile, Takeko's strength and skills had increased considerably under Master Daisuke's tutelage, who now adopted her. Master Daisuke had introduced her to the naginata, a weapon traditionally associated with female fighters in Japan. The naginata was as versatile as the famous samurai sword in combat, and just as deadly. One day, during a training session with Master Daisuke, Takeko defeated her master for the first time at age 16. In a real battle, Master Daisuke would have been dead. The student had surpassed the master. As a young teenager, she had achieved mastery in the art of combat, a remarkable achievement for a child. As a last resort, a young samurai woman had to master another weapon, the kai-ken, a dagger. Upon reaching womanhood, girls from samurai families were given a kai-ken, which they carried with them at all times, either hidden in a sleeve or tucked into their kimono or obi. The kai-ken's most crucial purpose was to assist in ritual suicide to achieve an honorable death. High-ranking Eizu women like Takeko had to be willing to sacrifice themselves for their lord, clan, and husband. After working with her adoptive father as instructor, she was in the region of Eizu for the first time in February 1868. During those spring and summer months, she taught the naginata to women and children in the Eizu Wakamatsu castle. Japan was undergoing a period of transition, where new customs and technology brought by foreign powers challenged the traditional authority of the samurai. The samurai resented the foreigners, they felt that their culture was threatened and was under attack. This now exploded into two factions, the emperor's clan and the shogun's men. Takiko's Eizu samurai remained loyal to the shogun and prepared for battle. Despite their pride and education, the Eizu warriors were equipped with outdated weapons, while their opponents had access to modern firearms, and they were quickly defeated by the emperor's men. The surviving Eizu samurai were called back north to defend their stronghold, which was the emperor's next target. Their leader, a warlord, was left with a mixed force of young boys, old men, and 600 samurai women, to defend their fortress at Wakamatsu. In the tradition of samurai warfare, the goal was to capture the enemy's head and hold it up in triumph, humiliating the victim. The Eizu women prepared for battle by cutting their hair in the style of a male samurai. As the emperor's troops blockaded all access to the castle, Takeko rallied her female warriors to join the remaining Eizu army. However, en route to the stronghold, they were ambushed by the enemy army and forced to fight. Knowing they faced an army equipped with firearms, the women devised a plan to attack fiercely and abruptly, using their blades against the enemy. Their objective was to break through the enemy lines and return safely to the castle gates, but the odds were stacked against them. The women realized it was a suicide mission. Takiko's unit waited for the enemy to fire their first shot, before charging onto the battlefield to engage in close combat. When the imperial troops realized, in shock, that their enemies were female warriors, their commanders ordered the troops not to kill them. This hesitation gave Takiko's warriors an opening to attack. They killed several imperial troops before the gunfire finally resumed. The lethal fury of the women of Eizu impressed their enemy, who were not expecting such resistance, only armed with their naginata. This allowed Takeko and her samurai women to stun the enemy with their deadly ferocity. While the primary Eizu force battled the enemy head-on, two other units attacked from the flanks. According to Eizu records, Takeko wreaked havoc among the enemy lines, and killed at least 5 or 6 soldiers, making her the primary target of the enemy forces. She was shot in the chest and killed by a rifle shot. She was only 21 years old. Aware of the enemy's custom of taking heads as trophies, which would bring dishonor, Takeko had requested that her sister behead her, to ensure an honorable burial. Despite the difficulty of the task, her sister agreed and sought the help of Ueno Yoshisaburo, an Ainu soldier, to assist with the beheading. With a heavy heart, she fulfilled her sister's final request and buried her head at the Hokai Temple. Following Takiko's tragic death and the loss of their stronghold at Wakamatsu Castle, the Eizu survivors retreated within the castle walls, knowing their chances of victory were slim at best. Despite a relentless bombardment, they resisted for a month, before Princess Taro finally surrendered to the emperor's generals. However, the victors were met with a ghastly scene, as more than 230 Eizu women had committed suicide to avoid falling into enemy hands. In accordance with samurai tradition, Takeko and her sister Yuko composed their death poems before the battle, leaving a final message should they perish. Takeko wrote in her poem,
心強い戦士の階級に比べれば、この体とはいえ、その数には入らない。
The fall of Wakamatsu Castle marked the end of the samurai era that had lasted for 1,000 years. The new rulers stripped the samurai of their elite status, and ordered them to surrender their swords. The shogun was forced into retirement, and a new era in Japan's history had begun. If you liked this presentation, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps out with the algorithms and the channel. Remember to turn on the notification button so you don't miss next time I upload. And I hope to see you in the next one.